Our next paper is Taiwan's position with the WHO, World Health Organization. The presenter is Professor Tony Liu at the Institute of International Politics, National Chungsing University. The presentation will be discussed by Kwang-Kyu Nam, who is the director at the Center for North Korean Studies at Asiatic Research Institute, Korea University.
Hi, my name is Tony Liu. I'm currently an assistant professor at the Center of General Education, as well as the Graduate Institute of International Politics at National Chungsing University in Taiwan. Today, I'll talk a little bit about Taiwan and the World Health Organization. Here is the outline of today's presentation. So I will first start by giving a little bit of background on the WHO, its functions, and its current status. Second part of my presentation will deal with Taiwan's soft power in public health. Third part of the presentation will go into the politics between China and Taiwan, or what is so-called cross-strait relations. And in the conclusion, I'll come back to talk about Taiwan and WHO. So first was the World Health Organization. The WHO is a specialized agency of the United Nations that is responsible for international public health. It's currently headquartered in Geneva, and its current head/Director General is Tedros Adhanom. Currently, the WHO boasts 194 members, and this is as of January 2021. Observers, there are two at the moment. One is Palestine, and the other one is the Holy See. Of course, as a specialized agency under the UN, its membership is founded on sovereign status. Hence, in this case, the ROC/Taiwan, Republic of China/Taiwan, is currently not a member to the WHO. On the international stage, Taiwan is also known as Chinese Taipei. It also goes by this name to kind of avoid the issues that's attached to sovereign status. So whatever it is called, Taiwan, Chinese Taipei, ROC, is currently not a member to the WHO. In terms of its supreme decision-making body, which refers to the WHA, or the World Health Assembly, this is convened in World Health Assembly annual kind of conference. It's convened in May in Geneva every year. So to Taiwan's soft power. Taiwan, also not a very big country. However, in terms of medical resources, personnel, technologies, and skills, Taiwan has a competitive edge. And as such, because of its abundance in medical resources, Taiwan often reaches out to friendly states to help them or to provide medical assistance. And the most recent example of this is the so-called face mask diplomacy, which is a response to the COVID-19 pandemic that broke out last year. So for a short time last year, there was a crisis or a shortage of face masks around the world. Taiwan, having great success in managing its production of face masks, in the end actually had an abundance of face masks to provide to others. So this actually shows as an example of Taiwan's soft power in public health. Besides face mask diplomacy and Taiwan's kind of confidence in medical resources and technologies, based on such foundation, before COVID-19 broke out, Taiwan actually promoted something called medical tourism. So how this work was its skills in cosmetic surgery, aesthetic surgery, and transplants, etc. Taiwan actually for some time offered a package to those who would like to carry out or perform their surgery in Taiwan while touring the island after completing their surgery. So Taiwan actually promoted this as a package before COVID-19 broke out and had some success in attracting visitors to Taiwan. Besides medical tourism, Taiwan also boasts considerable experiences in combating diseases. The most notable case of this was, of course, the SARS pandemic back in 2003. Compared to countries in the neighborhood, Taiwan actually had a lot of success in dealing with SARS. And some observers claim that helped Taiwan to deal with the pandemic starting last year. Of course, right now, if you guys have been up to date, some of you guys have been up to date with what's going on in Taiwan at the moment. Things look a bit shaky with a new outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in Taiwan. So it remains to be watched how Taiwan will deal with the pandemic this time. However, I need to say that it is undeniable that Taiwan over the past year or so, compared to the world, it had wide success and through the prevention of COVID over the past 12 months or so, Taiwan gained international kind of attention. In relation to the WHA or the annual kind of meeting that's held in May in Geneva, Taiwan did not always sit out. So for a short period from 2009 to 2016, Taiwan attended under observer status or participated in the annual WHA convention under observer status. Of course, that was better times in terms of Taiwan's relationship with China. So back then, Taiwan was under nationalist leadership under President Main-Zhou at the time. Fast forward to 2020, 2016, Taiwan had a government turnover, a change in government, and the DPP, the Democratic Progressive Party, the other big party in Taiwan here, came to power. The DPP has never been in good relations with Beijing. So as such, the claim is that Beijing actually applied pressure behind the scenes to keep Taiwan out of the WHO. Here was an incident from last year. So here we see the WHO Director General Tedros. So the claim was, although it's a fact that Taiwan remains outside the WHO, and it's also a fact that Taiwan performed surprisingly well in terms of pandemic prevention last year, controlling the COVID pandemic. There was kind of an international outcry for Taiwan to participate in the WHA. However, of course, we know that for a fact that Taiwan did not. And in this digital age, rumors spread, information flow really fast. According to Director Tedros here, For a short time last year, he was attacked by Taiwanese hackers or netizens, I should say, for kind of cooperating with China to keep Taiwan out of the WHO. Tedros responded by saying that this was unfounded, and he specifically pointed out Taiwan was kind of the biggest source of all these kind of fake claims that's kind of burdened onto him. This actually caused some commotion in Taiwan as well last year. So here we have President Tsai making a statement in retort to Tedros' comments. So here, as stated by President Tsai, so Taiwan strongly protests accusations that Taiwan is instigating racist attacks. For years, Taiwan has been excluded from international organizations, and we know better than anyone else what it feels like to be discriminated against and isolated. If Director General Tedros could withstand pressure from China and come to Taiwan to see our efforts to fight COVID-19 for himself, he would see that the Taiwanese people are the true victims of unfair treatment. So this was quite a strong retort or statement issued by the president concerning Director Tedros' kind of remarks against Taiwan. So the politics, of course, concerning Taiwan's participation in WHO and other international organizations is related to the China factor. So repeating kind of the One China principle, which states that there is only one China in the world, and that China is, of course, represented by the People's Republic of China. So Taiwan used to go by the name of Republic of China, so the ROC. Since falling out of power or falling from power in 1971 after being voted out of the UN, the ROC is generally not recognized as the sole or legitimate kind of representative of China in the world today. Hence, following this logic, in terms of specialized agencies that is related to the UN, Taiwan pretty much sits out of all of them because their basic requirement is to have sovereign status. However, things kind of shifted last year, interestingly. So since the outbreak of the pandemic, before that, there was already this kind of concern for China rising and becoming a threat to the world. So last year, following the outbreak of the pandemic, COVID-19, which still has unknown origins, although a lot of the fingers point to Wuhan in China. So the tide kind of changed in the international community concerning China. So in that sense, Taiwan reaped gains from this changing of tide in international relations. So since last year, there has been more and more outcries for Taiwan to rejoin the WHO, or as in brackets here, or attend the WHA annual meeting under observer status. Supporting statements came from the US, Canada, Japan, among others. So Australia, New Zealand, many others also issued statements at the WHO and at occasions of WHO meetings in support of Taiwan's status. Unfortunately, recently, Taiwan was or continue to be rejected from participating in the WHA annual meeting. Here I show a representative from St. Vincent, an allied country, a friendly country of Taiwan. Here I show him speaking up for Taiwan at the WHO, precisely supporting Taiwan's participation in meaningful ways in the WHO again. Two points to kind of wrap up the presentation concerning Taiwan and the WHO. So in short, the China factor continues to implicate Taiwan's efforts to participate in international organizations, especially those whose membership is founded on sovereignty. So besides the WHO, the ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization that is responsible for overlooking flights from the road, is another example of an international organization that Taiwan cannot participate in. So the China factor stands there concerning Taiwan's participation in the world. However, we see that Taiwan remains strong in public health. So in terms of medical resources, in terms of trained personnel, in terms of technologies and skills, Taiwan remains competitive. So the problem becomes, how can Taiwan actually mitigate the two kind of two developments that kind of go separate ways? It cannot, unfortunately. So on the issue of WHO, WHA, Taiwan's participation in the annual meeting or in the organization itself is an issue that is vulnerable or sensible to great power politics. So in other words, independently, Taiwan cannot do too much to help itself participate or re-participate in the organization in whatever status. Even in terms of observer status, there needs to be a goal from China. Of course, is this true? Can we actually support this with hard evidence? It's difficult to do because many of the tactics that China is claimed to kind of employ is behind the scenes and under the table. So it's not being seen out there in the public. So always when concerning international kind of relations of Taiwan, global participation in international organizations, institutions, regimes, etc., there is always the big China factor. Although empirically, it is really hard to kind of support things with clear, hard evidence. However, knowing that, the strategy or the kind of only kind of possible kind of escape from such a barrier is to rely on other powers supporting Taiwan's position or supporting Taiwan's kind of role in the WHO/WHA. And that we have seen over the past year or so. So whether or not Taiwan will continue to get support from the world, from countries that see value in Taiwan's public health and its meaningful participation in the world, remains to be seen in the near future. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, Professor Tony. I'm Nam Kwang-Kyu, Director of the North Korean Studies of ICR Research Institute in Korea University. Taiwan has most effectively overcome the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic crisis. leading Taiwanese to actively cooperate in quarantine through strong leadership and transparent administration, creating the world's most successful COVID-19 quarantine successful model. As of April 21, 2021, it had only 11 cumulative deaths, showing the lowest figure in the world. In addition to, Taiwan is almost the only country in the world to see positive growth in 2020 when the economy is rapidly falling due to COVID-19. Taiwan's handling of COVID-19 and improved soft power have raised its ranking in the Lowy Institute's 2025 index, an Australian think tank, and increased geopolitical and economic importance to the international community. And regarding the COVID-19 quarantine, Taiwan succeeded in preventing the spread of COVID-19 in the early stage by preventing and controlling the spread of confirmed cases after January 2020. The Taiwanese government immediately started operation with the establishment of the Central Epidemic Command Center on January 20, banned mask export on January 24, and banned all foreigners, including Chinese, from entering Taiwan on February 6. When the number of confirmed cases reached 10, strong responses such as the suspension of direct shipping to China and implementation of containment policies were effective to prevent the spread of COVID-19 early on. In the process, Taiwanese accumulated fast quarantine experience worked efficiently, and Taiwan suffered 73 deaths out of 3,046 confirmed cases and more than 1.5 trillion won in economic losses from SARS in 2003. After the SARS outbreak, Taiwan established a thorough quarantine system, such as revising the infectious disease prevention method to establish a command center covering all administrative departments in the event of an infectious disease outbreak. Especially, the COVID-19 quarantine success was effectively controlled by first, the high safety of the NHS system, public consensus, secondly, proactive measures such as local government antibody testing. Thirdly, active support for NGO activities. Three factors: preparedness and vigilance, coordination and leadership, and public support worked organically well in the early COVID-19 response. Especially, the rapid identification of the situation led to the early rapid identification of COVID-19 cases in China, the establishment of an immediate Central Epidemic Command Center, and the rapid broad blogging, the discovery and isolation of confirmed people. Third, it was mainly about controlling misinformation through communication with the people, reassuring citizens and raising strong risk awareness in spreading effectiveness quarantine education, knowledge, and attitude and practice of COVID-19. Therefore, there is a growing tendency at the United Nations to have no distinction between intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations in human rights and health section. With the world suffering from COVID-19, I think Taiwan's successful case of COVID-19 should be given a chance to hear at the World Health Assembly. So I would like to ask Professor Tony Liu, one question I'd like to know about the countries that support Taiwanese participation in the World Health Assembly and those that do not. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Liu and Director Nam.